I want to start off by saying welcome to everyone that's joined us here at the Nines Leadership Conference. My name is Scott Williams. I'm actually the campus pastor at the Northwest Oklahoma City campus of LifeChurch.tv. You can also find me blogging over at bigisthenewsmall.com or on Twitter at Scott Williams. The title of my talk today is Church Diversity Sucks. That's right, I said church diversity sucks. You know, we're not a few seconds into our time together, and many of you have already written me off. I've offended many of you. But before you write me off, I just want you to bear with me. Don't click off. Don't put your laptop down. There really is a method to the madness. And for those of you that are offended by what I just said, my question for you really is, were you offended by the fact that I used the word sucks? Or are you offended because you know what? Church diversity, it really does suck. I'm actually sitting here on the steps of what used to be Calvary Baptist Church in a historic area in Oklahoma City known as Deep Deuce. And this is a very historic church because in the late 50s and early 60s, a lot of African Americans would meet here. And what they would do is they would meet here and they'd have a rally during the Civil Rights Movement before they would go host these sit-ins here at Oklahoma City restaurants. It was a time when everyone wasn't welcome to eat at the restaurants in the Oklahoma City area, and especially African Americans. It was, no Negroes allowed, or everyone's not welcome, or colored folks not welcome. That's what would happen. So these groups of individuals would gather here. They would spread all across the lawn here, and they would rally. They would get prepared. And these sit-ins were amazing because as a result of these individuals going to these restaurants, just sitting there saying, you know what, we're not giving up our seat. We're going to do these peaceful sit-ins because everyone should be able to eat at these restaurants. And what happened through the course of time and through demonstrations that began right here on the steps of Calvary Baptist Church, these restaurants all across this city put signs on their door that said, you know what? Everyone is welcome. Behind these closed doors, there was a young ministry leader that was applying to be this church's senior pastor. And he came here and he preached a message and he interviewed, but church officials behind a closed door meeting decided that this young seminary graduate was too young, wasn't totally prepared, and you know what, was too inexperienced to be the senior pastor for Calvary Baptist Church. That young man was Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King in one of his speeches said, "We must face the sad fact that at the 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, when we stand to sing, we stand at the most segregated hour in America." That's still true today. On Sunday, when we stand to sing at churches all around the country, we stand in what is known and what still is the most segregated day and the most segregated hour of the week. This has got to change. Man, when you're embracing diversity, you're welcoming it. When you're tolerating diversity, means I'm okay, I'm good with it as long as it doesn't get in my way, as long as it doesn't bother me. But as ministry leaders, we have to be in a situation, understand agreement, and the heart posture where we embrace diversity. And the only way, in my opinion, the Great Commission can be fulfilled is if ministry leaders, if the church overall begins to understand what it means to embrace diversity, because there's so many people, there's people that are right outside your community right now, that because your ministry, because my ministry, or whatever, doesn't embrace diversity, they will never get the opportunity to walk through your church's doors. They will never get the opportunity to potentially enter into a personal relationship with Christ. And this has got to change. Ministry leaders, we have to embrace diversity and no longer just tolerate it. As we're talking about church diversity and for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven, then we really have to have a mindset that embraces diversity. A mindset that understands that heaven is not going to look just like Scott Williams, or heaven's not going to look like whatever your name is on the other side of this camera. And so when we have that heart posture, and when our heart is in a place where we truly truly embrace diversity, that's when we can start to see some reflections of His will being done on earth as it will be done in heaven. I tell you, there's countless people that I talk to that says they understand that this might be a problem and they would like to do more, but they don't talk about it with anyone. They don't have anyone to talk about it with. And to be honest with you, they're really uncomfortable having that conversation. And there's three people that we need to have that conversation with. The first person being we need to have the conversation with God. Pray for the people in your church. Pray for your community to be a community, and for your church to be a church in that community that truly embraces diversity. And I'll just say, one after one, person after person, and that stage, that platform, that band, our worship team is just one sample of what happens when you continue to pray for diversity. And our student ministry is 50% African American and 50% white, give or take a few of different minorities. And one of the things that we had to continue to pray for, which is the second thing, we had to begin to have the conversations with our staff, both volunteer and paid staff, is what does this look like? How can we begin to make this a melting pot that works? And so we had a conversation very openly, like, we understand, man, God has sent us a diverse group of people. What are we going to do about it? We talked about it openly. And that sounds very like that's common, or that's common sense, or that's what you would do, that's natural. Anybody can understand that. But so many people are not willing to have that conversation. I know that some of your watches now and says, race shouldn't matter. And man, in a perfect world, it wouldn't matter. But the reality is, this is just the God honest truth. When people walk through the doors of a church, they look around to see if there's someone there that looks like they do. What it does mean is that when the heart of the ministry, when the heart of the people is a heart that says, we are going to embrace diversity, we're going to see God, we're going to have the conversation, we're going to talk about this, then I'm telling you, God will send people through your doors. Again, I'm sitting here on the steps of Calvary Baptist Church, and if you look, the place has been through some things. There's broken glass, there's sidewalks crumbled. It's not in much different condition than it was in the civil rights movements in the 60s. But when you see, if you look just across the street, you look at an area that's changing, that's evolving, and that has life. And there's new condos going up, there's new townhomes going up. People are ascending to this area. It's change, and it's life. And that's what needs to happen with so many churches, with so many of you that are watching this right now. That's what needs to happen with your church. It's your heart needs to change. You need to have the tough conversation. You need to begin having open conversations, and you need to begin to embrace diversity, because church diversity sucks, but the real fact is it doesn't have to. So as we're talking about the fact that church diversity sucks and what are some things we can do to fix it, we begin to talk about the most important thing is having the conversation. And it's more about the heart, because it's my prayer that we don't look up 40 years from now and the exact same thing that Dr. King said 40 years ago is still true, that when we stand to sing on Sunday morning, that we stand in the most segregated day and the most segregated hour of the week. And my question for you is, I talked about, these sit-ins that these people would do at the beginning. They would all meet here at these doors. And their goal was they to go out into the city, and for every single restaurant in the city to have a sign on the door that said, "Everyone welcome." And so my question for every single person that's watching this right now, for you to be honest with yourself, and my question is the sign on your church's door, does it truly say "Everyone welcome"? Or does it merely say some people are welcome? Church diversity sucks, but it doesn't have to. And the solution lies with you and you and you and you and me.